No, pump it up. You got to pump it up, 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 don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up.
Okay, guys, the markets are actually doing incredibly well. I know that might sound crazy to some of you guys, but we are not capitulating. We are not free falling. These markets have sort of faked everybody out. They broke beneath critical support at 39.50, then 39.40, fell into the 3800s, but they've been slowly climbing since. The markets have come all the way back up to that 39.50. It crossed over it today. It's kind of like the runner getting set at the starting point, waiting for the gun to be fired and the race to begin. What is that gun and when will the race begin? Well, it's going to be when the Fed begins to print money. We know that he's going to. He said that he would. It doesn't appear that he has any other choice because of the damage that his rate hikes have done to banks all across the United States. On their bond portfolios have been decimated. I did a video the other day and I said that none of the banks were solvent, and I'm going to hold to that. None of the banks are solvent. Does that mean that we need to go get our money out of the banks and put it into our mattress? By the way, the number one joke on my last video was, hey Josh, great video. I'm going to go pull my 25 bucks out of the bank tomorrow so I can keep it safe. I get it. And that's another point I need to bring up, which is that they're not bailing us out. We're not getting protected. It's the rich Silicon Valley multi-million-dollar investors that are getting a special deal. I would agree that the Fed had to do it. Otherwise, it could have led to systemic failure of the banking system. But the fact is, it's really egregious because they're going to initiate this fee that's going to go through all customers at every bank in the United States. So if your bank had nothing to do with bad lending practices or bad risk management, and you're over there in Iowa in a small rural town, you are going to pay to keep millionaires over at Silicon Valley Bank whole. 90% of all the depositors at Silicon Valley Bank had more than $250,000 in their account. It was a bank full of millionaires. Of course, it's come out in the news that Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, had millions of dollars in Silicon Valley Bank. So, a lot of people are complaining that when he went to lobby government for a bailout for this big bank in California, he had not disclosed that it would directly protect and benefit his own financial interests. So yes, I think the markets are getting ready for a move higher, and we're seeing Bitcoin getting set up as well. Bitcoin is outperforming the market. Even though the market was falling today, Bitcoin was going higher. I think that's an early signal that they're both going to move up real soon. A lot of people were saying that the reason why the markets pulled back today was because of the fear of the banking situation, unease in the market. It's very possible. I would largely say that's a major contributing factor. Today was also Triple Witching Day. So what is that? Well, it's an event that occurs at least 4 times a year, and it typically leads to an extremely volatile day. A lot of day traders will not even bother trading on Triple Witching Day because the markets are erratic. Triple Witching Day is when there is simultaneous expiration of stock options, stock index futures, and stock index option contracts all on the same day. I want to go over a couple data points on the banks right now because the banks are still a concern, and the truth is that the Fed has yet to release a lot of funds into the market. I think that's what the market is waiting for. That's the signal I think the market's looking for. That's the start gun, as you might say, that people are going to then begin to buy once they see that the Fed is going to become dovish and is going to do quantitative easing. But let's just go over a couple data points on this point. So this post by Jack Farley, Bank of America has $113 billion of unrealized losses on its balance sheet. This represents 60% of their tangible book value. I've explained what book value is before, but basically it's the idea that if you were to liquidate a company and you were to look at their cash in the bank, assets, every single thing that they own, what would the company be worth? Not their growth, not anything else. It's like if you were to just assess a company and sell it at cash value in the moment, not taking into consideration the future whatsoever. Jack Farley is pointing out that currently Bank of America, which I actually believe is a good bank, I think these big banks are too big to fail, and I absolutely believe that the Fed will fire up the cash printing machine. They will be saved. I feel 100% they cannot afford to let them fall, because in a way these guys just can't be touched. They can kind of do whatever they want. So this is actually showing their debt securities balance sheet, and it's showing that they have an unrealized loss of 113 billion, and that is 60% of their book value, which means that they have 40 cents on the dollar for depositors' money. But the truth is that that is purely on paper. If they were actually forced to liquidate and to come up with that other 40%, they would not be able to do it, and it would end up being more like 20%. Because it really, you have to remember that anything has value based on who's willing to buy it, what buyers step forward. So the truth is, here's a great example. One of the biggest banks in America, and they're probably sitting on 20% of the worth of their depositors' cash. I know that is somewhat of a generalization, but I just wanted to take a big, broad look at the banks, and Bank of America is one of the biggest. I like them. I think that they're going to be a great long-term investment once we get through this. There's a lot of talk about the banks not being in a great position right now to invest in. That even though there's going to be a lot of these big banks, Bank of America, I mentioned them the other day, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, you're going to see these banks gobble up market share. They're also going to do a lot of damage to their margin, their profit margin. And you know, that's what the economists and the analysts mark up the value of the stock based on improving margin, not deteriorating margin. And so we're going to see downward pressure on the banks moving forward until all of this gets settled. It does not necessarily make sense to buy the banks just yet, even though a lot of them are sitting on critical support. And as I said in my last video, you could take a position with a hard stop loss and hope that you are getting it at the bottom. But you need to be aware that the banks are not a green light, go start buying scenario just yet. The borrowing that the banks have been doing, there's a run on the Fed. The bottom line is that the banks are running over to the Fed, borrowing as much money as they can to shore up the deposits which are flowing out of the system. And so really, when you see that bar tick up and you see record high borrowing from the Fed, you know that there's a concern. We know that we've been soft-talked by the politicians and by the Fed, by everybody involved, Janet Yellen. They're telling us there's not a problem. You've heard it from me. These banks are insolvent, every last one of them. They don't have your deposits. The very best, the too big to fail, are sitting on 40% or less of the depositors' money, but they will get bailed out. And because they're going to get bailed out, and because the Fed, they're too big to fail, and the government will not let them fall apart, they're going to print the money, and this is going to drive stocks, but more importantly, it's going to drive Bitcoin higher. Where does that leave us today? Well, I'm going to give you my conclusion in just a moment. If you need better trade tools, then consider this offer from the Moomoo investment app. They're offering 17 free stock to open and fund an account. This is an exclusive and limited time offer. Click on the link in the top pinned comment to get all the details. I love the app. I use it every single day. Guys, I have been sick. I have really just been pulling myself together to make these videos and do a few small things. I very well may have COVID. Some of the friends I was with, they've tested positive for COVID, so I'm getting through it. I mention this because I've not been in the chat. I've just been in a little bit survival mode, trying to attend to the affairs of life. But I will be back into Moomoo, and I will be reconnecting. If you don't have the Moomoo app, then you can get those free stocks, start investing today, and then come find the chat group over there that I host called Stock Josh Fam, and we will be together again in the chat group very soon. I said it the other day, and I'm going to repeat it. I'm going out on a limb. You know I make those predictions. Bitcoin is going to 28K. I think after that, we will probably pull back to 26K, and then we will reset from an oversold position, and I believe it's very possible that we will advance to 30K at a bare minimum. Guys, take that prediction seriously. Always use a stop loss. I'm just telling you what I see in these markets. The Fed's going to print. Bitcoin's going to be one of the biggest benefactors. We're going to see Mara and Riot. They're going to pop as well. We're going to see them go higher. We're going to see the altcoins go higher. We're going to have an opportunity to take profit on these. We're going to have an opportunity to buy again at a lower price. Don't get caught buying the top and not selling or taking profits. Be aware of what's happening. Take a position. I'm telling you guys, from my view, the charts are setting up for a move higher. You guys know that I told you I sold my ADA at when it went above 35 cents here recently. I took some profits. I then told you guys that I believed it would pull back to 32. It pulled back to 32. I've re-entered my position. I believe that when Bitcoin goes up to 28K, I think it's very possible that we're going to see ADA up to around 40 cents again. So I think it's going to be a powerful move up of profit. That's what I'm doing. Again, this is not a suggestion for you guys to buy, sell, or hold. I'm simply sharing with you my trades. Guys, keep in mind that there are scammers in the comment. They use my picture and my face. They try to get you to reach out to them on WhatsApp and Telegram. Thank you guys for hitting the like, the subscribe, and the all YouTube notification bell. I will be back in the chat group, and I will still be on here trying to make some videos. Peace and blessings, my friends. I'll see you very soon.